First of all, what do you make of Rishi Sunak's spending splurge yesterday, Benedict?
Well, something needed to be done to alleviate the suffering of the millions of the poorest people in this country who will be very badly hit by things like energy price rises, food price rises and all that. So something did need to be done. However, certainly the days of the Tory party being the sort of the neoliberal Thatcherites of the world, I think you could say are well and truly dead and buried if the pandemic hadn't already done that. The Tories are now addicted to spending money that they don't currently have in the bank. And, I think it's very telling that, we're talking about a £5 billion windfall tax. But the total cost of all of this, according to every newspaper, according to the Chancellor, is £21 billion. So, you're kind of sat there going, that doesn't sound, entirely promising, given that it's not just a cost of living crisis. We are sort of plunging forward into a global recession. And not just on the front page of The Telegraph, actually. Fraser Nelson, the editor of The Spectator, has a column inside the paper saying as much, that actually, whilst this will stave off a lot of suffering for a lot of people in the short term, long term, this is going to harm the British economy going forward. When a recovery does come, it's going to sort of taper it off a little bit.
But Rishi Sunak says he can handle that.
Well, that's good to know from Rishi Sunak. It doesn't actually go into any great details as to how we're going to do that.
He is extraordinary, isn't he? I mean, for a Conservative Chancellor, he's given away more money than you can remember.
It's hard to understand what Rishi Sunak's politics really is, because throughout the pandemic, for obvious reasons, he took some extraordinary measures. But there has always been this tension between Sunak and the rest of Cabinet, and particularly Johnson, in terms of what kind of Conservative Party he wants to portray. And there's a reason. I think he quite enjoys the idea that he is the nice Chancellor and the one who gets all the kudos for doing the good thing by giving out more money. And that has been a source of kind of conflict particularly between him and Johnson in the past. But if you just get into the spread in the Mail here, goes into the detail of what this will actually mean for each section of society and different people. And you have, for example, energy bill discounts of £400, and that's for everyone across the board. You then have £650 for one-off payment, and these are all grants, not payments that will have to be repaid, which was previously suggested, that £200 that you would have to pay back in instalments. £650 for people on universal credit and things like that. Pensioners with £300, and people on disability benefits £150. Which, yes, it is generous. There's no one questioning that. But in the context of, in the last sort of month, we've seen prices jump. First of all, it was sort of, there's going to be an extra few hundred on your energy bill. And then next thing, in a few weeks, we hear, well, actually, it might be £2,600. And in that context, £400 is nothing, really. And the bigger question is, and with Benedict's, qualms about spending on board, the problem is, if you have, this kind of stay of execution, which essentially this is by means of a handout, is very welcome and it's necessary, and he couldn't have done anything else. And, I don't often defend the Labour Party, but I think, it is pretty ridiculous that they have basically the Conservative Party's played a political game. Everyone knew they were going to go for the windfall tax. They just didn't want to do it
not a tax.
quick enough.
Don't mention the T word. It's not a tax. Energy profits levy.
Energy profits levy, yeah. It's a bit like, what kind of spin of words. But the bigger question is, all of this would be able to be absorbed and would be sort of less paltry and less frightening at the same time if there was a long-term plan for economic growth, if there was a long-term plan for, policy on energy in terms of whether it's nuclear power, fracking, whatever it is. But there's none of that. And so then this really is just a stay of execution. I can imagine we'll be in the same place next year.